What is up, everybody?
Welcome back to Mile Higher Podcast, episode 64. And today we're talking about the Watts family, which is a really tragic case, pretty local to us, that really got a lot of nationwide coverage this year.
Yeah,
and
blew
we
up.
And a lot has come out since we first talked about it. We talked about it on the podcast when it first happened. And then I did a video on it as well. But so much has come out since then that we figured we would just do a whole episode and dive in and see what really happened. Because at that point, we were kind of just assuming it was before a lot of stuff came out.
It was before he was even like on trial or anything. So, we now know the complete story of the Watts family tragedy. And that's what it really is.
And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
We've avoided doing it. We both have. Because it's sad. It's so upsetting. Sad. It's definitely not a fun topic.
No. And I mean, I think it's important to cover, everything, both sides of the spectrum, even if no matter how sad it is, it's important to share people's stories, and maybe hopefully it might prevent something like this from happening again. Maybe, but I don't know. It's a really tragic case. But before we dive into that today, let's go ahead and dive into our news stories for this week. So first things first, Google tracks your location and shares it with police even when your phone is off. So if you disable GPS on your phone, or even deactivate phone tracking on your phone, which you can do, or even turn off your phone, it's still possible for Google and the NSA to monitor your every move.
Oh, well, fuck.
Basically, as long as you have the device with you, it's still trackable.
Even if it's off.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Isn't that crazy?
That is. And then, of course, we're so addicted to our phone. So most people have their phone on them all the time.
Right.
Especially if you leave your house.
Yeah.
Like the only time I think a lot of people don't have their phone on them is if they're in their own house and it's like on a charger upstairs or down, whatever.
Even then, I feel like most people keep their phones with them everywhere they go, even at home.
But I mean, anytime you leave the house, you definitely have it.
Yeah.
That's freaky.
So what the controversy is, and I mean, we've known this for a while, that Google collects your data and your location data, from your computers, your web browsers, that little pop-up like on your computer that says allow your location, like especially if you use Google Chrome, it's grabbing your location of where you're at and recording that. And basically Google compiles all of this data, including data from like Google Maps, obviously, and they store it inside this massive database that they've got called the Sensor Vault, which contains detailed location records of hundreds of millions of devices from around the world. And the records reportedly contain location data going all the way back to 2009.
Wow. And
it's collected no matter whether people are making calls or using the apps or not. It's just being collected. So, I mean, I think this is the world that we're moving to. We talked about this a little bit last episode with surveillance and everything's going to be surveilled. Well, in reality, we kind of are actually being tracked and surveilled right now.
Yeah. It makes you wonder like how people that commit crimes and then, go missing or like aren't around to be served or are hiding out or something.
Yeah.
How they do that.
Yeah.
I think it's so hard to hide nowadays.
Well, they ditch the phones. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Most people that go missing leave a phone behind, because if the missing person had their phone.
No, I'm talking about like criminals, like running away.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like, for example, those guys that hit Ricky Sandoval.
Yeah.
The story I covered back in December.
Right.
They've been gone. They haven't found them. They're both gone.
And a lot of times criminals use burner phones or phones that don't even have like GPS. And it has to have like GPS, has some type of tracking in it.
Yeah, that makes sense. God.
Crazy. And plus you can't just if there's millions and millions of records, you have to have some inkling as to what the phone is, how to identify which device to track the records back to. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So even if they did have their phone, it'd still be somewhat hard to figure out who it is.
Right.
If you don't know who it is,
That's true.
But another part of the controversy is that police are using something called a geofence warrant to access location data from devices that are linked to individuals who have no connection to criminal activity and have not provided any reasonable suspicion of a crime. So they're able to, through this warrant, basically just go sift through the data, whether or not they know exactly whose data they're looking after. So there's a chance that law enforcement could be looking at your devices, where your movements essentially without your permission or without you being, suspect of a crime. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's just crazy to me though. I can't believe we're already at that point, but I mean, I guess it makes sense.
So do you think they should be able to do that, or are we losing our privacy and we need to take it back?
I don't know. Again, it's hard. It's the same thing as with like DNA right now, and genetic genealogy is very controversial in that way.
Yeah.
Like, are we
same
invading
kind of
people's privacy? But I think if we can solve heinous crimes, it's like worth it. I don't know. It's hard to say because, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, like really anything.
And I mean, that's the biggest thing with both of the things, DNA and GPS location, is that it is solving a ton of crimes and helping get people faster because like one of the first things law enforcement do is they go to the phone records. Like we'll see in the Watts case today, they go and get his phone records and look at his text messages, look at where he was, look at all these different things.
So they can pinpoint exactly where he was versus like back, early 2000s, they could only really pin the nearest cell tower for most crimes. They would,
well, if it has GPS, yeah. If they have GPS records, then they know exactly where you are.
So this was, so if you have a smartphone or something like that.
Right, exactly. Because before, when there wasn't like Google Maps on your phone, they would trace it off where the call was made, which pings off the tower and back to an area. Mm-hmm. So it's gotten like really precise. Like look at Find My iPhone, which you use all the time.
I lose my phone all the time, and it's always like in my bed.
And it can like pinpoint almost to an exact location in your house almost, it feels like.
It can. Or sometimes it's like way wrong, but it depends.
But I feel like it gets it pretty accurate, like
for the most part.
So that's kind of where things are headed. And I don't know, I'm kind of split on this because at the same time, I don't want to be spied on. I don't want somebody, I don't feel good about the government having this like reach into my personal life and all of this information on me. And I mean, that's why I personally, like, what can you do about this, right? Well, you can actually go and disable all this stuff, tracking and all of these things, which I typically do, except for my phone. I don't, because I like Google Maps. I use that all the time. Yeah. So if I'm using that, it's getting collected.
Yeah, or like a Yelp or something like that.
Or like my computer. I don't really care about my location on my computer or anything like that. So I disable all of that shit, block it up. So I don't know. It's pretty controversial. A lot of people think it's going against like the Fourth Amendment and, that it's unlawful searching. And I don't know. It's really hard. But at the same time, I think the good that comes out of it, how we've caught, terrorists and all that kind of stuff, like it's very much needed. But maybe there should be a little bit more, steps to the process as opposed to just like law enforcement just get free range to it. Yeah.
Right. You have to have good reason to be able to access that.
Yeah.
But let's be real. They're never going to do that for us. They don't give a shit.
No.
And they could even tell us that they're doing that and then look at our information anyway.
Well, we already found that out from WikiLeaks.
Yeah, exactly. So
that the government was like spying on our telephone conversations and stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think we win here. Unfortunately, I think it's just going to get more and more. But the second story that I have for you guys is very interesting. Another professor, an Oxford University professor, claims aliens are already breeding with humans on Earth. So this is a real professor too, like a very smart individual named Dr. Young-Hae Chi, an instructor in Korean at Oxford's Oriental Institute.
Wow.
Thinks that this new species that aliens are breeding will save Earth from annihilation from climate change, which is really interesting. So there's actually like a point to it.
This sounds like Avatar or something.
Yeah, it does kind of sound like something like that. No, you're right. But that was like more like a virtual world. Remember? Because they're in those little contraptions.
I gotta see that movie again.
So basically, he believes that there's a strong correlation between climate change and alien abductions. His book, which is written in Korean, is called Alien Visitations and the End of Humanity. In his book, he's identified 4 types of aliens: small, tall and bold, scaly with snake eyes, and insect-like.
Scaly with snake eyes. So this is what we keep hearing.
Right.
This makes so much sense.
Right.
So I'm guessing the smalls would be like little grays.
Yep.
Talls are big grays.
No, tall and bold are tall whites. The Nordic, yeah.
Well, aren't there they're tall grays and small grays? No?
No.
Oh, I thought there were.
No, I mean, there might. Okay. I don't know. There might be tall grays. As far as we know, they're just short, though.
Oh, so this is a tall white?
Yeah. Tall and bold, meaning like bold white skin. I'm assuming like a tall white.
Is this the one my sister saw at the grocery store?
Tall Nordic. The Nordics are tall whites. My sister thinks
she saw an alien at the grocery store. I don't know.
In the milk section.
In the milk section.
Oh my God. Maybe she did.
Maybe. Scaly with snake eyes would be like reptilian.
Boom.
And then insect-like would be those mantis.
The mantis species, which is very weird. And here we go. Like, we don't know if he's taking that from what's already out there.
Right. And where's the blue avians? Isn't that also an alien race?
That's one race that I don't see that much outside of that little group that believes in them. Yeah.
The blue avians.
Yeah.
Huh.
Not quite as like popular as the main four types of aliens.
Interesting.
That theoretically exist.
Huh. Okay. So why does he think this?
So his whole theory is that he believes the insect aliens, so the praying mantis, may be in charge and give orders to the other types. He said the aliens exist.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's the last one we want to be in charge. I don't want to take orders from a praying mantis.
God, how
and that
scary
would make
is that?
sense because they're so smart. And I don't know if any of you guys have seen a praying mantis up close or even a katydid. They're basically the same thing. They're in the same little family.
Yeah.
But they look insane close up. Like in the sun, their skin is like...
They're wild looking.
Really colorful and almost... I don't even know how to explain it. I've looked at them. I've spent a lot of time looking at katydids in our backyard. And I would not be surprised if a praying mantis type thing did exist. Because they're so smart and the way they move, and that'd be so
They're
wild.
very alien-like.
Yes,
aren't
very
they?
alien-like. Yes, totally.
Compared to other
like
bugs
miniature
and stuff.
aliens.
They really are.
Yeah, and they're weird, but they're crazy. They eat off their heads.
Yeah.
Like when they mate, they
rip the head off.
Yep, of the male.
They're savage. They're just like
I've watched
beasts.
it before. They like go for the eye first, and it's like little snack after they bang. Yep, that's how it goes.
That's crazy, man.
Gotta love nature.
So yeah, maybe this insect type alien he's talking about is these praying mantis species. But he went on to say that the aliens exist in their own biosystem that humans cannot experience because our perception is limited by our organs.
Whoa.
That's very interesting to think about.
Limited by our organs.
So he's saying that they're not like, they don't have like organs. And I also read in another version of the article that he thinks that these alien species are like invisible or can go invisible, or we can't see
all
them.
of them, or just the snake or the insect
I think
one?
all of them have the ability to come in and out of, appearance.
What if there's just one here?
Well, that's his whole thing, is he thinks they're living amongst us. Like,
we should
they're
just
already
invite
here.
one for an interview.
Yeah.
Be sick.
If there's any aliens out there like to be on the podcast, please hit up my email. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's really interesting. And he goes on to say that the aliens are said to be highly intelligent, and he believes they could solve the problems on Earth in the future, such as climate change.
Yeah. Wow.
He was quoted as saying, "So they come not for the sake of us, but for the sake of them. Their survival, but their survival is actually our survival as well. The survival of the entire biosphere."
Oh, well, that's good to know.
So the Earth is as important to us as it is to them.
It's part of the universe.
Right. And it could be an alien organism itself, and that they can communicate with it on a deeper level than we can.
Wow.
And they get different things from it. Like, I think what this is all leading to is that these higher developed species that are just way more aware than we are and can connect with all sort of the hidden forces of the universe and the Earth. Mm-hmm. And we just can't, because we're just a more primitive species. And we've yet to really understand the complete connection between the Earth and us and the rest of the universe and other life out there. But they are just ahead of us. And maybe they're able, they are flying around in their craft and just living here amongst us, observing, waiting
if
to step in.
If the planet is actually that important to them, they would be here, right?
Like, 100%.
Watching.
At least observing.
Well, that makes me feel really good.
No, that's what I wanted to share this, is because
if that's real,
it's a plausible idea.
That's a good idea.
It sounds crazy, but it is plausible that they are here helping us while interbreeding with humans in order to create hybrid human species that maybe are more intelligent and then can influence the rest of us, or maybe just like people that are really brilliant that have got great ideas are some type of hybrid being almost, and maybe they just have this.
Elon Musk.
I knew you were going to say him.
He's
maybe. I mean, maybe.
Dr. Greer. Alien.
I think pretty close. Yeah.
Honestly, sometimes I think he might be.
Who knows? I mean, who really knows?
If anyone would be, it'd be him, right?
It would be.
It's got the direct connection. But for real.
But his
really
theory is, yeah, I mean, it seems pretty spot on. And he thinks that the aliens will appear on Earth when the planet is facing significant problems such as climate change or nuclear war.
We have to wait till then. Can you guys come a little sooner before this?
Right.
We're dumb. We're not going to get our shit together about global warming. That is becoming really evident. It's just not going to happen.
No.
Like, we're going to need help. So we have to wait till it gets way worse.
Right. It seems,
according to this theory.
Yeah. Which is I feel like a theory that's shared among a lot of like ufologist type people.
It is.
The UFO community.
Definitely.
I think kind of believes this sort of idea that when, shit really hits the fan on Earth and, all of the ice caps are melted, the sea level's like 100 feet higher.
We have to wait till it gets that bad though.
I know, that's the sad thing about it, is like it's going to be a really crazy state of the world before I feel like if aliens stepped in would. But then I'm also worried that what if they step in and just like, all right, we're going to take over this. You guys suck.
Yeah, it could be like that.
Now we run the planet.
Yeah. And then you think about all those things we talked about last week, like the freedom centers and stuff, and having the little name tags and everything. Like, what if they enforce something like that? They
could full on like enslave us and make us, or force us to like evolve as, I don't know. There's infinite possibilities.
Well,
so yeah, I just
we'll have to just find out.
That's all we can do, right? Just enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
We're all on this
and look at interesting theories.
Ride of life and just contemplating. Now, here's a really kind of funny story, honestly. So, a man says he fled an Austrian prison over a decade ago, has recently turned himself in to police in Salzburg, telling them that he was fed up with living in Spain's Canary Islands. So this guy, 10 and a half years ago, escaped prison in Austria, somehow made it to the Canary Islands, and has been there for 10 and a half years, just like living freely on the beach, essentially. And he got tired of that and said that it was getting too crowded and he was just done dealing with it. So he decided to come back home.
Was he living actually on the beach, or was he like, did he have like an apartment and stuff?
Oh, I don't know that. I don't think we know if he was actually living on the beach or in a building. I'm sure he had a place there or something. He probably had a job. 10 and a half years. You can't just live on the beach for 10 and a half years.
That's true.
And this is like a popular vacation destination. So, I mean, maybe he was, and the crowds got too big and started like coming up to his front porch, and he was like, nah, I'm done.
That's so wild. Cause I feel like your situation must be bad to want to go to jail instead of living in paradise.
He said it used to be nice and that he had lived there long enough and he was just tired of it and ready to come back.
What?
And turned himself in.
What a strange dude.
Very weird, right?
I would never do that. You stay at the beach, dude.
Seriously.
What are you doing? Don't go to jail. He's probably regretting it, but he's sitting there like, fuck, the beach was pretty damn nice.
He's 64.
Oh my God, dude. Just
64-year-old.
retire at the beach.
Seriously.
Why would you go back? I feel like there's got to be more to it. Maybe he really was living outside or something, or I don't know. When I first heard this story, I thought he was like living outside or like on an island. When I heard the islands, I was like, maybe he was like lost on an island.
Yeah.
And he's just sick of having to survive.
Yeah.
But no, this looks like he was just like living near a beach.
Yeah, I mean, look at the picture of the beach. It's super beautiful there.
Yeah. Super beautiful.
Beautiful sandy beach. Like, why would you want to come back and go to jail? So yeah, they put him back in jail. They verified that he had escaped prison, and now he's probably going to be in jail probably for the rest of his life.
Good job, dude.
But hey, it's his choice. He wanted to do that.
Yeah, I guess good for you for having some morals and coming back.
God, I don't know. If that was me, I'd be like, no, I'm staying. I don't care. Why would you want to go back to prison? Or I'd change locations. Maybe, I mean, if you got to the Canary Islands, why didn't you just go somewhere else? Like, how do you get there? And he couldn't get somewhere else. Like, I don't know. It's very weird. There's not this just happened, so there's not a ton of details about it. But
okay, we should
keep an eye on it because yeah, it's very bizarre. You don't hear that every day of somebody escaping to a paradise island and then 10 years later deciding, I'd rather be in jail.
Yeah, no, that's
after
very
escaping
strange.
too.
That is very strange.
Yeah, super bizarre. But let's go ahead and get into the Watts case. And before we do, I want to thank our sponsors for today.
So one thing that I truly love in life is subscription boxes. For some reason, it feels like Christmas because you're getting this surprise gift in the mail. And it comes, and sometimes you don't even remember that it's coming. So it's like a nice surprise. So one of my favorite subscription boxes is FabFitFun. This is actually a seasonal box if you've never seen it before. So it comes 4 times a year, and it's filled with full-size beauty, fitness, and lifestyle products. They have a bunch of really high-quality brands such as Tarte, Kate Somerville, Anthropologie, Free People, Dr. Brandt, and that's just the beginning of it. So even in this box right here, we have the new Tarte Skincare Drink of H2O. So I'm really excited to try that. This is cruelty-free, which is awesome. This box came with a lot of skincare stuff, which is great. I'm trying to redo a bunch of my skincare because I'm going completely cruelty-free. So these products are going to be awesome. It also has like a foot cream, everything that I would need for summer. And then it also has this really cute little dish in here and a towel, a beach towel. So you never really know what you're going to get in it, but I always love and use everything in my FabFitFun boxes. They're really fun to get. It retails for $49.99, but it is valued at over $200. So check it out at www.fabfitfun.com and use the code MileHigher so you can save $10 on your first box, making it only $39.99. Again, that's fabfitfun.com and use the code MileHigher because you deserve to treat yourself.
So as you guys know, we are big fans of Quip. We've been using Quip toothbrushes for a long time now, and they honestly are the best toothbrushes that either of us have ever used. And one of the best things about Quip toothbrushes is that they have the 2-minute timer, because I know for me personally, I never knew how long to brush my teeth. You know, a dentist recommended at least 2 minutes, but I know for a while, I probably wasn't going the full 2 minutes. So having that built-in timer with the Quip toothbrush is absolutely essential going forward. So what's awesome is that now the whole family can have their mouths refreshed with Quip, because yes, Quip has come out with Kids Quip, which has the same 2-minute timer, but just tweaked down for a kid's size mouth. So just this size is actually different. Otherwise, it is almost identical to the original adult version of the toothbrush. So if you have kids out there, this is definitely something I would highly recommend you get, because Quip really does a great job at keeping your mouth clean. But I think my favorite thing about Quip is they make it extremely easy to make sure that you always have a fresh brush head. In fact, they automatically deliver it on a dentist recommended schedule every 3 months for just $5. So you can always have a fresh toothbrush heads. So yeah, that's why I love Quip and why I think you will too. And why over 1 million people have happy, healthy mouths because of Quip. Quip starts at $25. And if you go to getquip.com/milehigher right now, you can get your first refill pack for free. That's your first refill pack free at getquip.com/milehigher. So let's get into the Watts family. So Christopher Lee Watts, his parents are Cindy and Ronnie Watts, and Shanann Catherine Watts, her parents are Frank and Sandra Ruchek. And both of these guys were natives of Spring Lake in Aberdeen, North Carolina. And where this happens is in Colorado, northern Colorado actually. But prior to moving here, they were from North Carolina. And from the outside, these guys looked like a picture perfect couple. Mm-hmm. You know, Shanann was clearly very in love with Chris Watts, her husband of nearly 6 years.
Typical Colorado family, like just,
very much so.
You know, your average family just getting started with their life. And
yep, they had a nice house in a neighborhood up in northern Colorado, actually pretty close to where we used to live.
Very close.
We used to live probably about like 20 minutes away, 15 minutes away from where these guys lived.
Yeah, and Frederick is a tiny
little town up north.
So this really shook that area.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was crazy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this shook the entire world pretty much, the amount of media coverage it got, and hence why you've probably heard of Chris Watts and this tragedy. So to just give you some perspective on Shanann Watts and who she was an extremely loving person, extremely kind, just an exceptional human being. And she actually said in, the months leading up to this tragedy that she was lifted out of a trying period in her life by meeting her husband, Chris. She quoted as saying "I believe that everything in life happens for a reason. And I also believe people are placed in our life for a reason."
Yeah. She said he randomly sent her a friend request and she just decided on a whim to accept it. And then they ended up getting married.
Which is crazy. And it's just like, and that was the thing, is she worked for this company called Thrive, which is essentially an online business. And so she worked from home and she was on social media a lot because she was promoting this brand. Yes. So there's tons and tons of like Facebook Live video of her, you know, doing live streams and videos of her.
Kind
and
of
her
like
kids.
an MLM, one of those
Yeah.
It's like Mary Kay or, I don't know, Sensi.
Yeah. It's sort of like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a referral based business where you have to be
Mm-hmm.
referred to it in order to be a customer. So she, you know, was online quite a bit, and there's actually lots of footage. And there's actually a video a few months before this happens where she's just talking on camera. I'll play a little bit of it.
Hey everybody, say hi. Say hi. You don't want to say hi? So I just wanted to come on here live. Say hi.
Hi.
Hi. So Saturday's here. I don't even know what time it is. It's 8:30 here in Colorado. And I love waking up now on Saturdays and being able to enjoy my family. We never have to... Careful, Cece. We never have to really... we never have it determined where we're going. No plans, really. Summer's coming. And we're super excited. Bella, come here for a second, baby. We're really excited for summer because so much goes on in the summer here in Colorado. There's concerts every weekend, Friday, Saturday nights. There's always some kind of concert going on. And get together with friends, cookouts, and just enjoying life. And I'm really excited this summer because some of the amazing things that go on the weekends were when I was working for a company where I had to be in every weekends because that's the demand. The demands were always the weekends, so I needed more help. So I feel really blessed this summer. I'm going to San Diego with Chris. We're going June 22nd through the 26th.
So I'll just stop it there. But I just wanted to play that because I wanted you to hear her voice and just hear what kind of person she was, because this will put everything in just like perspective for you of how just like crazy fucking sad that this whole thing is.
One of the reasons why people feel so connected to this case is there is so much video of her beforehand where she seems to have such a good life and it seems so happy and such a good family. Like they're talking about having family time on a Saturday and
going on trips, on vacation, like everything really seems completely normal, completely just I mean your typical family, happy family from, you know, just how she presents herself. I mean, she seems like such a kind and sweet person. And further in this video, she talks about how her own growing confidence and independence while conceding with these battles she had with her insecurities, including health challenges. She met Chris because of those health challenges, and that he was like super supportive and, you know, helped her get through these tough times in her life. And like Kendall said, they got a random request from Chris on Facebook. And I mean, that's how they met at the time. And a North Carolina resident actually said that at the time she quit her job of 9 years, lost friends because they didn't understand and felt horribly inside. And
didn't understand that she looked perfectly fine, but felt horribly inside. Right. She was just really depressed and in a dark place when she got the friend request at first. And she was like, oh, I'm never going to actually meet him. But then she decided, you know, to just go ahead and accept him. And then she says one thing led to another. And 8 years later, we have 2 kids and we live in Colorado. And he's the best thing that has ever happened to me. Yeah.
And she went on to say that her love story with Chris would inspire others. Quote, know that no matter how hard life gets, no matter how low you feel, know that deep down, like in your heart, there's a purpose. There's a reason for everything, which is so crazy to think about when you start thinking about what happened to her. And it's just crazy. She said, because I got so sick, I let him in and he only knew me at my worst and he accepted me. Like literally, she just like in these videos, she just gushes about Chris and talks about how literally she gave him every excuse to run away. And yet he never did. And he stuck around and he was really there for her. She's quoting saying he's amazing. I can't tell you how wonderful he is. Just absolutely 100% fully in love with this man.
And she was having like gastrointestinal issues. So he even went to a colonoscopy with her. She says that I rejected him, pushed him away time after time. I canceled dates last minute, saying that that's how life is with these health challenges. You cancel things last minute, and he still stuck around. So yeah, he was like a hero to her.
Absolutely. And he really like took her out of this dark place and like became her partner, lifted her up and created like the picture perfect life.
And that's what it seemed like
for him and her family. And there's so many pictures of them just looking like so happy and like nothing is wrong whatsoever. But as we've learned, people can put on a front and put on, fake it to make it. And below the surface, there's all sorts of things happening and turmoil and even mental illness that is undiagnosed could be happening. I mean, it becomes just baffling when you find out like what happened here. So let's go ahead and go through the timeline of events leading up to that tragic day. So on June 11th, 2018, Shanann Watts records videos of her surprising her husband with the news that she's pregnant for a third time. So let's take a quick look at this video. So for those listening, I'll set it up the scene for you. She is in her living room and she's got the shirt on that says, "Oops, we did it again." She's going to surprise Chris as he comes into the house.
We did it again. I like that shirt. Really?
Really?
That's awesome. So pink means...
That's just the test.
I know. It just says the pink is going to be girls.
I don't know. Just the test.
That's awesome.
Wow.
He seems so not actually happy. Like you can just tell it is so fake. He's like, "That's awesome."
He's like, "We did it
out.
again."
Yeah. And then the fact that he said, "Does the pink lines mean that they're girls?" I'm sorry, but what kind of father that has had 2 children already and has been with with his wife through 2 pregnancies doesn't know that you can't tell the gender from a urine stick that early?
That's very true. That's so why.
Like that, you seem like such a detached dad.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is.
Like, I can't imagine if you're like, "Is this a girl?" Like, you would even know better than to think that the pink means it's a girl. That's like weeks of being pregnant, Like,
and I like how he like comes over to look at it, and he's like,
"Yeah,
hopefully this is not what it is."
And I think
hopefully
he wanted a boy. If anything, in his head, he was thinking like it should be like,
Well, Nico.
Maybe and it ended up being a boy anyway. But
not that it fucking mattered, but
yeah.
But yeah, the fact that he seems like just completely detached from it. And the reason for that is because he's already started talking to a coworker, starting an affair essentially with Nicole Kessinger. And a few days later, he actually enters her contact information into the phone. And we now know that Kessinger would become his mistress. And they started dating seriously at the end of June. And Chris allegedly initially denied this affair to police. But authorities said they carried out a 2-day investigation and confirmed the infidelity.
Wow. So they had only been dating for about a month or so when this happened.
Yeah, it wasn't long at all.
That's wild.
Yeah, it is really wild. So there's like pictures of him on his phone that they have now of him and his mistress Kessinger. And on June 17th, 2018, Kessinger tells police that sometime before Father's Day, Chris Watts tells her he is married and has kids, but is in the process of separating. Meanwhile, in reality, on Father's Day, Shanann Watts writes a tribute to him on Facebook, quote unquote, saying, "Chris, we are so incredibly blessed to have you," she wrote. "You do so much every day for us and take such great care of us. You're the reason I was brave enough to agree to number 3. What the fuck? Like, she is so like in a totally different world from Chris. Like Chris is on a totally different fucking planet.
Yeah.
Selfish, just completely living a double life.
Yeah.
Is what he's doing.
To be like, if you're that detached of a person, I think it's easy to do that. If you don't really care. You don't have that much attachment to your family.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and it's interesting
maybe he's
that
a sociopath. Maybe they're just objects to him.
Well, and I think he was able to like fake it in his relationship with Shanann clearly.
Oh yeah.
To the point that she like believed him and believed that he was still in it and was still. Mm-hmm. I think she probably noticed that he was a little bit distant. I
think they were having issues mainly because of his affair. Because they started having marital issues, and we'll talk more about that and everything. Mm-hmm. And you know, I don't want to say this like too early and like, but you know, before everything happened, Chris went on a date with this girl at Lazy Dog.
Yeah.
You know, that
sports bar place.
Yeah, over north though, and he used his debit card when he was there. And he normally used cash or like something else, or he had his like a private credit card, but he had to use the debit card for some reason. And so he was sketching out because he thought Shanann was going to see it. It was like the night before, or maybe that night before everything happened.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, it was like really soon. He was sketching because he thought maybe she knew.
Well, he was literally going to try to keep it under wraps. I mean, he clearly wasn't planning to tell her.
No,
at all about this affair.
I think as a woman, you start to just feel it.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Well, as a man, I mean, I think you just become detached from one and then you become super engaged with another. I think it's pretty obvious after a while. Because, I mean, as a guy, you're going to get tired of just faking the relationship to the point where it's just going to be, you know, glaringly obvious that you're done. Like, you're just like, you're out of it. Mm-hmm. And I think eventually his plan probably was to just like separate. I mean, they started talking about separation and things like that. So I think he was planning to go that route, but it's just crazy that, you know, what happened. So on June 19th, Shanann Watts shares a picture from her first ultrasound and writes that her husband is the best dad us girls could ask for, which maybe part of this is portraying an image online. Could be like, she did have a bit of a, you know, following online and stuff. And she did post, she was active on Facebook, especially. Mm-hmm. So it could be, you know, like I want to portray a really perfect image of. Well,
in those, like, I think it's considered an MLM, but in those types of corporations, they really push social media. Like, right. You've got to have a following to sell.
Yeah, you got to be active, talking with customers.
Like, you don't want to post like a picture and be like, oh, me and my husband had this horrible fight last night. Like, everyone posts the good things in their lives.
Right.
And it gives you such a false idea of what's going on in somebody's life. You can have no idea what's going on in someone's life by their social media.
Absolutely.
So just because she's smiling in a picture and they have an ultrasound and she says he's the best dad ever doesn't mean
that's the reality at home.
Yeah,
by any means. Because it's definitely not. So on June 27th, Shanann Watts takes her daughters, Bella and Celeste, to North Carolina for a 5-week vacation while her husband stays at home and works, quote unquote. And just take a moment to appreciate like how cute their family is. Like,
they're so
minus
cute.
Chris, like Shanann and Bella and Celeste, like just sweet, cute little girls. It's just, it literally dagger through the heart thinking about what happened.
So hard.
So she's out of town with the kids. Chris is like loving life because he can basically just see Nicole like kind of whenever. Mm-hmm. And Nicole told police that she went to Chris Watts' house for the first time on the 4th of July to quote unquote set up his diet and weight loss exercise goals, which is interesting. And she said that he invited her to his home, which is so fucked. When you bring a mistress back to your fucking family's home.
I can't believe she went in there. Like, I can't imagine going to a guy's house,
seeing
the family pictures and the kids' toys and stuff. Fuck that.
That's just fucked, man.
How can you do that?
No respect.
No respect.
No respect. He had no respect towards his family or nothing. Yeah, so he invites her over. He cooks her lunch, and then she ate and left. But Chris told a different story to investigators later on in February 2019. He said he woke up at Nicole's home the morning of July 4th to several missed calls from his wife, who's probably like, because he's not like actively engaging with her when she's gone.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing, is she's starting to really like sense something's up.
Yeah.
From texts actually that she has with her friend, which I'll get to in a minute. But Chris is just like totally like putting her on the back burner.
Yeah,
and just,
wasn't
like,
she asking one of her friends, like, what do you think about
yeah,
this?
yeah. She starts like suggesting like something's up, like he's being so distant, more so than normal. But Chris also said he told Nicole that he needed to go home in case his wife called back, and that Nicole got mad, realizing that she would always be the quote unquote other person, and that he would put his wife first. He told investigators she told him it would be best if they didn't see each other for the rest of the day, but later invited him back to her house. So they're just, you know, doing sketch activity with each other.
Sketch activity. It's one way to put it.
Yeah, yeah. So on July 7th, the first phone call is logged between Chris Watts and Nicole Kissinger. By July 10th, signs of tension begin to show in the Watts marriage, according to their text messages. So an actual excerpt of the text messages says, Shanann asked Chris, "You okay? It's like you don't want to talk. I kept trying to talk and I had to dig it out of you." Chris replied, "I'm fine, baby. The last few days at work have put a lot of responsibility on me with new people. I didn't mean to seem so short, boo. I love you to the moon and back." What a fuck. So totally lying, just trying to appease her. And then Shanann responded, "I miss you and I feel like you just want to work out and run." Chris claimed running helps clear my head. It will always, it's a way to free it all. But Shanann didn't buy the excuse. She said, "I wish my husband wanted to talk to me." So she's like, why? Like, what's going on, man? Like,
yeah, sensing it.
You're just exercising and working out and running? Sure, bro. On July 14th, Chris Watts and Nicole go on a date to a car museum. That afternoon, Shanann Watts makes 4 unanswered calls to her husband. Like, imagine if that were you for a sec. Like, and if you were calling her, like, you were on vacation.
Yeah.
And you were calling me over and over again, and I wasn't picking up.
You better have a good reason for that shit, or I'd be mad.
And clearly they didn't have like Find My Friends on.
Yeah.
Because like you would have just like look at my location. If you saw me like some random place or some random house, you'd be like, "What the hell?"
Oh, I would.
What you doing, bro?
Oh, I would. I would find out real quick.
And honestly, you'd probably like send one of your like friends or something to come. Like
I'll send my subscribers.
No, but send somebody to go find where you are. If you're like,
yeah,
because for all she knows, he could be like dead in a ditch or something. Like, it's possible. So throughout July, Nicole and Chris are just going back and forth, and Nicole's sending Chris Watts semi-nude photos of herself, which he stores on a secret calculator app on his phone. That little bastard. Chris told investigators that part of what drew him to Nicole was the feeling that she was pursuing him instead of the other way around.
This is such a sketch picture. She's like posing in the mirror. Who is taking this? It looks like a man is taking it in the background. And then look at like, she looks good from the back, but then you look at like her pose to get this. She looks so uncomfortable. Like she looks
it's
like
an unnatural
What
pose.
is she doing? It looks so natural and normal from the back, but then you see in the mirror and you're just like, girl, her ribs are like gonna break.
It looks like her back
really
is
pushing
breaking.
it out.
Yeah, she's trying really hard.
Yeah.
So this is actually a photo that is recovered from Chris's phone from that calculator app.
Who took
Check
it? That's so
your
weird.
partner's calculator apps, guys.
Oh, I'm gonna make sure you don't have a calculator app.
Oh my God.
Josh would never. I'd be shocked.
Please. So later on that month, Chris Watts and Nicole actually visit the Great Sand Dunes National Park and spend a night at the nearby campground, which we've been to. He also gives her a love letter before leaving town to join his family on their summer vacation on July 30th. And look at this love letter here. A kiss, a touch, a smile, a squeeze, a look, a laugh, a tickle, a tease. What the hell?
That's
bro?
some like Hallmark bullshit, by the way. He didn't write that.
No. What? He's already saying he loves this girl, by the way.
Okay.
And then inside the letter, it had a bunch of lyrics to the song Down to Earth by the band Through the Roots. And it says like Nikki. So Nicole goes by Nikki. He has just like, or no, he only wrote a couple notes at the bottom. The rest is the card.
Yeah.
Like how he dated it too at the top. 7/30/18.
What the hell?
Said, "You keep my engine roaring when you're pushing on the pedal. You bring me right back down to earth." I guess that is a lyric from it. Yeah. I can't resist the feel. You put me on another level. When I'm around, I can feel peace in the atmosphere. So like, I think one of the things is like, unfortunately, guys are so like driven by sex in a way. And I think sometimes guys equate sex to love and they get the two confused. And that was him here, is like, he's just like into sex. I think he's like kind of, I don't know, maybe he wasn't getting what I don't know what the situation was,
but addict.
Yeah, a sex addict or something, you know, sex addict. I don't know. It's weird.
I think that's a real thing, right? Or no, it's not. I don't know. It depends on who you talk to.
Yeah. Some people say it is. Some people say
Dr. Phil does not think it is a real thing.
No, he doesn't.
But I don't know. It's interesting. People have mixed opinions on that. Do you guys think you can have a sex addiction? Because a lot of people argue that in order to have an addiction, you have to withdraw from it.
Right. Well, that's the thing, is like, can you have actual sex withdrawal effects? Like,
yeah, I don't know.
I don't really think so.
Yeah.
I think you could be addicted to sex in a sense, because there is that like rush, that euphoria, whatever you want to call it, the, you know, climax, so like, is in that like sense, it could
addictive. Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on that. It's interesting.
I'm like, how much sex do you got to be having to get to that point where you're like addicted? Like, or just some people's brains addicted to that rush, that feeling. I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know. It's a very controversial thing, but so Chris, he flies to North Carolina for the final week of his family's vacation on July 31st, and his and Shanann's reunion does not appear to be happy, according to a copy of a text Shanann sent to Chris, which was later forwarded to a friend. And there's actually a picture of the text, and I won't read all the way through it, but it just says that she starts noticing that he's just like withdrawn, and the kids are, you know, nothing to say to them. Yeah, it's just a lot of, I don't know. Do you want to elaborate on it?
She says, like, I didn't tell your dad not to come to the party. I didn't tell him not to call or text your daughter at her birthday. I didn't tell him.
This is to a friend too.
Oh.
Yeah. This isn't to
so
Chris.
I thought she was talking about his father.
Or actually,
it is to Chris.
It is to Chris. Sorry, it's the forwarded text.
Yeah. So she's talking about his dad.
Yes, and that's the other facet of this, is that
interesting.
She had a very toxic relationship with his parents.
Really?
They did not like each other.
Wow.
They had a very different opinions of each other.
I did not know that. Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
And that's that actually is a reason for that Chris puts out later for all this happening, is like the pressure and the stress of their tumultuous relationship with his parents versus her and her parents.
Yeah.
And because basically, like, when the kids were with his parents, they were like in unsafe situations, and they didn't really.
Your parents' home isn't safe. Your mom isn't safe. You can't let them tell you what you want. But wow, interesting. So they were having major issues.
They were fighting about his parents being there with the kids or taking the kids or whatever. So they were fighting about that, which, I mean, is a tough situation to be cut in the middle between, you know, your parents. I think we've experienced that a little bit.
Yeah.
But,
except we never fought, though.
Yeah.
Which is nice. We were always on like the same team.
As most of us have found out the hard way, including myself, getting into debt is easy, but getting out is hard, especially if your FICO score isn't great. Sky-high interest rates can make it incredibly hard for you to break out of that revolving debt cycle. Thankfully, now there's Upstart.com, the revolutionary lending platform that offers smarter interest rates to help you pay off high-interest credit card debt, which I know for me personally, if I had known about Upstart a few years ago, when I was still digging myself out of credit card debt, I would have most definitely went and gotten an Upstart loan because of that smarter interest rate. Because if you don't have great credit, then you get slammed with very high interest rates, which may even put you into debt more than you already are. What's great about Upstart is they go beyond your traditional FICO score or credit score when assessing your actual credit worthiness. They actually reward you based on your education and job history in the form of a smarter interest rate, which is great. So they don't ding you on the credit part of the application. Upstart believes you're more than just a credit score. They make it fast, simple, and easy to check your rate in just a few minutes without affecting your credit score. The best part is that once the loan is approved, most people get their funds the very next business day, the next day, which is great. Over 200,000 people have used Upstart to pay off credit cards, student loans, fund their wedding, or to make a large purchase. Free yourself from the burden of high interest credit card debt by consolidating everything into one monthly payment with Upstart. See why Upstart is ranked #1 in their category with over 300 businesses on Trustpilot, and hurry to upstart.com/milehigher to find out how low your Upstart rate is. Checking your rate only takes a few minutes and it won't affect your credit, which is the best part. That's upstart.com/milehigher. So we're now into August, and on August 4th at 12:45 a.m., Shanann Watts sends her husband a long text message accusing him of failing to stand up for her after his parents exposed their daughter Celeste to nuts, which she was allergic to. This is another big fighting point for her, is like that's part of why she's pissed, is like they're just like exposing her to nuts. She's clearly allergic to them, just kind of being so irresponsible because nut allergies can be a serious thing. I mean, my nut allergy is only to peanuts, and it's pretty mild. Like I get hives in the throat, but as a kid, it was a way worse. Like I'll never forget, there was a time I ate a Mr. Good bar. My parents, that's kind of how they found my peanut allergy. They gave me a Mr. Good bar. I ate it. And then it was like one of the worst nights of my life. Like throat completely swelled up and I like, your breathing gets kind of restricted. And then I just like threw up everywhere.
Did you go to the hospital?
No, because my what really always helped was milk, because milk coats your throat and helps bring the swelling down, actually. So I
wonder if you had a bunch of peanut butter, if you would die.
Maybe. I don't know. If I had enough, maybe I could.
I don't know. I mean, it's your body's natural way of saying don't put this in.
It's true.
Here anymore to fuck up your mouth and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, the taste of it, I can just pick out
you
instantly.
Hate it.
It's disgusting to me. Peanut butter, it smells bad. It tastes bad. It's horrible. Don't understand how you guys do it.
It's not that hard. Peanut butter is pretty good.
I was like, I love peanut butter.
I love peanut butter.
So Chris later told investigators that he should have ended things with Nicole and focused on his family after learning about the peanut fiasco, which he referred to as Nutgate later on.
Because, okay, so I think Shanann was a very, very hands-on mother. Mm-hmm. She was on top of her kids' health. She was really into the whole Thrive thing. So I'm sure she's also looking at what's going into her kids. And if you have something as serious as a peanut allergy, obviously as a mom, you're good. I would be really pissed too. I completely understand why she made such a big deal about that. I would be infuriated if someone did that to my kid. Well, a grandparent that should know that. That's bad. And
you would be angry with me if that was my parents that did that to our kids.
Yes,
and I just was like, what do you want me to do? Or just what do you, they're fine. Or you would be pissed about it that I wouldn't stand up to my parents. So that was one of the big fights that was happening was Chris wouldn't stand up to his parents to get them to change their behavior with the kids. And actually on August 4th, Shanann Watts appears to have had a fight with her in-laws, which caused them to skip Celeste's birthday party that summer. She also tells her husband that he hasn't shown any signs of missing her in the weeks they have been apart. So there's more text messages going back and forth between them.
Yeah, I'm kind of reading through it.
That is, just it's hard to see things fall apart. Because he's basically asking her, why haven't you missed me? And he's just kind of giving, the typical answers.
She's evil and willing to risk your daughter's life just to get under my skin. You and your dad are no different if you were okay with her behavior. So she was mad at the mom.
Yeah, especially the mom.
Interesting.
Yeah, they did not. I don't think they really liked each other at all.
I had no idea about that. This pregnancy, you have failed to acknowledge it, how I'm feeling. This first trimester is the scariest, most dangerous yet. We could have lost the baby at any point. Till delivery, I'm not going to be treated this way. Having the balls to protect our family and our kids. I should get a gold ducking, I'm guessing fucking medal, hanging on the wall for what I did. For handling it the way I did. Because I had a lot of choice of words. So she was just basically saying I have every right to be angry at your parents for almost killing our daughter.
Right.
Which makes sense. So
on August 4th, while Chris is still away with his family, Nicole is doing searches for wedding dresses on the internet for over 2 hours. according to a review of her cell phone data. So they were like moving super fast.
Oh my God.
They were saying, I love you already. And they just met basically like
wow.
2 months
She
into
was already
it.
looking at wedding dresses. So he must have been asking her or saying stuff about it.
Well, he was like totally planning on this future with her, clearly. Like he was planning to, separate from them and just start a whole new life with somebody and just like forget about the kids pretty much.
No fucks given.
So as August goes on, Shanann continues to just get all these signs that something's up with Chris and she's having problems with her and she's confiding in her friends, as to what's going on with him.
Listen to this. First part of this message she's sending to a friend. Chris told me last night he's scared to death about this third baby. He said he's happy with Jess, Bella, and Celeste and doesn't want another baby. Oh my gosh.
That's terrible.
Okay, keep that shit to yourself. You don't tell a woman that. What is she supposed to do about it? She's pregnant.
Can you imagine how like demoralizing that
Yes, like I don't want that. I don't want what you're carrying right. Oh my God. He's just scared everything will be fine once the baby comes. He has changed. I don't know who he is. He's not touched me all week, kissed me, or except for when I'm trying to figure out what's wrong. So strange. God.
He's just dealing with her. He's just like
tell
going
by
through
that
the
reaction
motions.
he did not want the baby.
No.
You could tell in the video.
Well, think about this angle too. Like in his mind, he's clearly already thinking about divorcing his wife.
Yeah.
And he's probably thinking about, I got to pay child support for a third child.
Yep. And it's just harder with the baby, like raising two different houses. It just, adding one more into the mix makes everything harder. It definitely makes it harder to leave.
It does.
When he had, so I feel like he was pretty resentful.
Yeah.
Of the whole situation.
Clearly it was pregnancy. Like, I think it was unplanned, like just based on the reaction. Like,
I guess, but
who knows? Who knows really? Yeah. I don't know. God. But on August 9th, Shanann Watts tells a friend that Chris Watts went to her ultrasound, but he was cold to her. So she decided to cancel the baby's gender reveal party, which is terrible. So he's just being a total fucking downer, not interested at all. She said he refused to hold me, said he's not there. He can't. What?
Haven't slept most of the week. My eyes burn from crying so much. He refused to hold me. Oh my God. What the hell?
She said to him, how is this a few months? We were so intimate in what I thought in love when I left. He said he had a lot of time to think.
Wow. She should never have. Well, he should have not cheated on her. But God.
She grabbed his hand during the ultrasound and he didn't grab back. I cringed. He rejected sex the night we arrived here. Only thing I can think of, even though I don't think he has it in him, is another girl. So it seems like she's having a thought, but she clearly doesn't think he's capable of cheating on her.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of women feel that way.
I feel like a lot of women are like, I don't know. But they were together 8 years, 2 kids. No other instances, as far as she knows, of him cheating. So I guess you would believe that he probably didn't have him in him to do it, but clearly he does.
God.
So now we're getting to, that fateful day. But on August 9th, Shanann Watts leaves for a quick business trip to Arizona. And on the way there, she tells a friend that she had her best talk yet, quote unquote, with Chris Watts the night before. She also texts a friend a handwritten letter she has drafted to give to her husband, in which she says she doesn't know how they fell out of compatibility. And this letter is just like, it's heartbreaking because she is just like pouring out her heart.
Yeah, she loved
all the
him.
love in her soul to this man, like literally giving him everything, every ounce of her. And he's just like, doesn't give a shit. So the letter says, "My dearest Chris, I don't know where to begin. I am so lost for words. I can't even explain how hard this pain is. The last 5 weeks have been the hardest. I missed everything about you. I missed your morning breath, your touch, your lips, kisses. I missed holding you. I miss smelling you in the sheets. I miss talking to you in person. I miss watching you laugh and play with the kids. That I love so much about you. I miss seeing you naked and on top of me, making love to me."
Wow.
Clearly, like really putting out there, like, hey.
Damn, and she sent this to her friend?
Yes. She texted a friend.
Like a picture of the note. Yeah.
Right. She said, I miss having you around when I felt alone and upset. I just flat out miss the hell out of you. We haven't been away from each other that long since 2012. Those like 4 weeks or whatever that they were away from each other, which is like a month. So that's a while. She said, I really don't know how we fell out of compatibility or if that is someone else's words. The only thing that came, the only thing that changed this month was everything going down with your family. I can't change what happened, but I can try to work things out with you and with them. But there has to be a mutual respect for everyone. I definitely deserve an apology because of Celeste. I can suck up her going against everything I said to her kids, but our daughter's life. And then it stops. But
probably goes on to the next page. But
so she clearly Chris is in the wrong here, and she's coming to him being like, I'm sorry.
Still.
Let's work on this.
Yep.
Just continuing to try to make the relationship work while Chris is just detaching himself from the entire situation.
It has a whole separate life going on.
So on August 11th, Chris hires a babysitter saying he's going to a Colorado Rockies game with his coworkers. But in reality, he's taking Nicole on a date to a sports bar, the Lazy Dog in Erie, Colorado.
Right.
So this is very close to the day or two before. On the 12th, she sends a friend a drafted speech she plans to give to her husband when she returns to Colorado the next day. So the note. And then she sent a message to Addie explaining the accompanying text was what Shanann Watts planned to tell Watts tomorrow night. And the message read, quote unquote, can you please tell me something? Because just like you, I'm in my head. I try to fix things and make them better, and this is making me crazy. I know that you need time. I want you to give what you're asking for and respect your space. I need some time. This place that I'm in my head is not a good place. It is not healthy for me or Nico. I need you to help me help you. I need you to give just a little bit of what I did or didn't do, so I'm not going crazy in my head to figure it out. I know I can't fix this by myself, that we're going to have to work together. Literally, this is the day before everything happens. And she's almost like pleading him, like, please give me something. Like,
yeah. She wanted it to work out. It was really him. Yeah,
it was 100% him. So now we get to August 13, 2018, which is when this entire nightmare unfolds for the Watts family. At 1:48 a.m., a neighbor's surveillance camera captures Shanann Watts returning home from her business trip to Arizona. A friend dropped the mother, who's pregnant, off back at her home in Frederick. And there's surveillance camera showing her getting dropped off. So this is where we'll talk about Chris's version of events before we talk about the actual version of events. So Chris tells investigators that he was sleeping when his wife came home, and he said that she initiated sex and then they went to bed. So she was like, from that message and everything, like she was like, just trying to put it all out there. Like,
yeah,
like, love me, fucking love me. Between 4 and 5 a.m., police said Chris told them that he woke up around this time and they had an emotional but quote unquote civil discussion with his wife about his wanting to separate, which is,
God,
I feel like a really bad time.
And she
first
probably
thing in the
did
morning.
not take that civilly. She probably freaked out.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Can you imagine getting that flipped on you? Like all that flipped on you?
Who would do that after having sex? That's so bad, dude.
And just like at really like 4 or 5 in the morning is the best time to, when you're level headed and you can talk about serious things. Like I would never want to have this serious of a conversation after waking up at 5 in the morning. Would you?
No.
About separating? Like that's feel like the worst time to do it.
Yeah, that sounds literally like the worst time possible to do that.
So after they have this civil discussion, according to Chris, he's spotted at 5:27 a.m. backing up his truck to his garage, literally backing the truck bed into the garage a bit. And at which he said he loaded his tools in his vehicle and left for work at a job site near Hudson. So Chris worked for a oil gas company called Anadarko, which is a big company. And there's a lot of employees here in northern Colorado because there's a lot of oil wells and tanks and things like that. So they lived kind of out in the boonies a bit. Frederick's kind of a small town like we mentioned, but then his job site is like just out in the middle of a field, like nothing around it, just out in the middle of nowhere pretty much. So that's where he said he was headed. He told officials that Shanann and his daughters were in bed when he left. And he said his wife told him that she was bringing the children to her friend's house that day. But he said that he didn't know the friend's name. which
Whatever,
is a
dude.
bunch of bullshit. Like, how would you not know what friends your wife's going to take your kids to? Like,
Yeah, that makes
that's
sense.
just a lie. So here's what happens next, according to Chris. So this is Tuesday, August 14th, 1:40 p.m. Frederick police were called to the Watts family home to check on Shanann after the friend who had dropped her off said she had answered calls or text and missed a 10 a.m. doctor's appointment. Very weird.
Yeah.
Right?
And she was like on top of this stuff, especially doctor's appointments. It was
Yeah.
for a something
Pregnancy,
related to
yeah.
her pregnancy. Yeah.
And she was clearly all about, you know,
Yeah.
her health, and she would never, it was out of the ordinary that she'd miss it. And the biggest red flag for her friend Nicole was going to their home and seeing her car in the garage
Yeah.
and being like, whoa, what's
Yeah.
going on? She
Yeah.
would totally have left.
Yep.
So
Good
that's
friend.
when,
She had good friends.
good friend. Yeah.
She was
absolutely
a
had her
good
back.
friend too. Like she had a huge group of friends because I think she met tons of women through her work.
Yeah. Totally. And the family has even said that their friend's almost kind of a hero, like that she started figuring out something was up like right away.
Yeah. Yep.
Because she was actually the one that phoned police
Yeah.
and said, hey, this is weird. Can't get a hold of her. Her car's in the driveway. She's pregnant. So she could have passed out. I mean, something health related could have happened. You know,
Yeah.
she could have been.
Totally. Like you have no idea what could happen to her, especially because she's pregnant and she was worried about her because she wasn't eating.
Right.
Like she was already having issues like keeping food down and stuff, and they were trying to make sure she was getting as much nourishment as possible during her pregnancy. So she was worried that she maybe like passed out, like you said, or something like that, and that the kids were possibly in danger.
Right. Exactly. Like if their mom's on the floor somewhere and the kids are just in the house, like something could be really wrong medically with her.
Definitely.
So calls the police, then calls Chris, tells him, hey, like, what's going on here? Like, you need to get back here. Something's going on with Shanann. So Chris is probably having a freak out moment in his head. Like, oh my God, what's going on? Well, I mean, he knows what's going on. But so he's rushing home because the police are now showing up to the house. And that's, you know, once the police are already there when he arrives, and Chris gives them access to the house. He's like, okay.
You can see there's
Here we
video,
go.
body cam footage that's released where you can see him like
The
just
officer
pull
going
up.
through.
He pulls up fast. Like he like comes
in
flying
hot,
to the side of the
yeah.
house, parks, grabs something out of the car, comes running up to the officer, and then is just like really quick, like, hey, whatever. And then goes straight inside.
His whole reaction to possibly his wife being like dead on the floor from a medical episode which would be what a normal person would do. Like if it were me, I got called home and because somebody thought you might be something wrong with you in the house or whatever, I would have ran out of the car, like rushed inside, searching everywhere, like looking, and like Chris is just kind of like casually like walking through the house, walking upstairs.
Yeah, like just like he
Nonchalant.
acts like he's just doing a search warrant with them, like, and he acts like he knew they weren't going to be home.
Yeah.
And he goes in and he comes up to it. He's like, they're not here.
He's like, yeah, their blankets they're gone. He's like, they always take them with them, so the kids must be with his wife. She must took them to somewhere, friend's house.
But how? Her car's gone. So police are already starting to be like, this makes no sense.
Yeah.
And this is when it was starting to be on the local news. And we saw it on TV. And I remember just watching his interview and being like, what the fuck? This guy's sketching out. They like interviewed him and he's just like, I just want them to come home.
Yeah, I'll show that in a sec.
Okay.
But I was going to say that when the police went through the house, they, you know, the first thing is she's a missing person, like something,
Right.
some type of maybe kidnapping. Who knows? Something happened. Burglar broke in, took her. Something like that. That's
But it became pretty
immediate
obvious,
thought.
I think, to them that he was acting so weird.
Well, especially because they found Shanann's purse on the kitchen counter and a cell phone in the couch. And there was no signs of foul play either. Like, that was the thing. There was no forced entry. There was nothing out of the ordinary in the house. There was no immediate signs that something had happened, which the only thing is the bed was stripped, which we'll talk about in a minute, which, I mean, people wash their sheets and stuff, so it's not that weird. But when you find out what happened, it's like, that's a
When you're
major...
a possible murder suspect, it looks pretty weird.
So after the police go through the house with Chris, a neighbor invites them over to his property to review his home surveillance footage, which disproves Chris Watts' story that his wife left with the girls while he was at work, because that's what he had said.
Yeah.
So the surveillance footage disproves that that they never left.
Yeah.
And so that's the lie right there.
And they're showing it to him right in front of him.
Yeah,
in the
you
video.
remember seeing that. And
Yep.
he's like starting to put his hand on he's starting to like clearly freak out. And that's when the guys, as soon as Chris walks out, the neighbor says to the cop, he's not acting right. And the cop's like, something's wrong with him.
Yep.
Yeah.
They knew.
I think that's when they knew.
Even I feel like the newscasters knew. Like I felt like they were subtly like hinting towards that.
Yeah.
From the beginning.
So the Frederick police actually request the assistance of the FBI and the Colorado Bureau of Investigation to search for the Shanann and the girls, because they're like, this could be a manhunt for somebody. There's a missing person with her 2 girls. We got to find them. And they issued a missing endangered alert for the 3 that day. And later that afternoon, as Kendall's been alluding to, Chris Watts appeared on Denver 7 to talk about his wife and daughter's disappearance. And this interview is it just says a lot. And more so, more than Chris, I think, even thought. I think he thought he was fooling everybody. But let's just see what you think of it. So he's outside the front of his house talking to the news cameras.
Chris Watts, WATTS.
Wow. What's going on right now around your house?
Right now, it's got K9 units, the sheriff's department. Everybody's like they're doing their best right now to figure out like if they can get a scent, see where they went. If they went on foot, they went in a car, or they went somewhere. And right now, it's just like they've been on point. They're going through the house trying to get a scent, and hopefully they can pick something up to where it's going to lead to something.
Liar.
Your wife came out. Tell me what's.
She came home from the airport 2 a.m. and I left around 5:15. She was still here, and like about 12:10 in that afternoon, her friend Nicole showed up at the door. Like I had texted Shanann a few times that day, called her, but she never got back to me. But she wasn't getting back to any of her people as well, and that's what really concerned a lot of people. Is like she's not getting back to her. Like if she doesn't get back to me, that's fine. Like she gets busy during the day. But she didn't get back to her people, which was very concerning. And
her
Nicole
people
called me when she was at the door.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's when
her
I came
friends.
Home.
Yeah.
And then walked in the house, and nothing was vanished. Nothing was here. I mean, she wasn't here. The kids weren't here. Nope, nobody was here.
What's your wife's name?
Shanann, SHANANN.
What's your kids?
Bella and Celeste.
How do you spell Celeste?
CELESTE.
Oh my God.
How old are your daughters?
Bella's 4, Celeste is 3.
And so, how many times did you try calling her?
I called her 3 times, texted her about 3 times just to say, what's going on? Like because after I called her and texted her once, it's like maybe she was just busy. Like she had just gotten back. Like everybody's probably calling her from her trip. She just got back from Arizona, and I figured she was just busy. But when her friend showed up, that's what it was like. It registered like, all right, this isn't right.
Oh my God.
He seems like just bullshitting so hard.
Totally.
Right now, I don't even want to just like throw anything out there. Like, I hope that she's somewhere safe right now and with the kids. But I mean, could she just taken off? I don't know. But if somebody has her and they're not safe, like
I don't know.
Them back now. Like that's what's
so
in my head.
convincing.
Like, if they're safe right now, they're gonna come back. But if they're not safe right now, that's the not knowing part. Like, if they're not safe.
What?
Last night I had every light in the house on. I was hoping that I would just ran over by the kids running in the door and just like barrel rushing me, but it didn't happen. And it was just a traumatic night trying to be here.
What? That makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, he started tripping during that part.
Whoa.
He's like, that's the not knowing part. What?
He's saying he had what the fuck? He's saying he had all the lights on in the house waiting for them to come home and barrel rush him, but they never came home. That's his story. Is like they never came home. Even though the friend, I mean, he's already getting tripped up because the friend, the surveillance footage shows the friend dropping her off.
Yeah.
And he's saying right there,
wouldn't the kids be home with him?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well,
where were the kids? What does he mean? Come rushing in.
Yeah, so that right there just is
or
like...
Or he's just saying, I'm waiting. I'm waiting?
No, from what he just said, he was like, I left the lights on because I was just waiting for them to come home. And he's like, they never did.
I just want them back. I just want them to come back. And if they're not safe right now, that's what's tearing me apart. Because if they are safe, they're coming back. But if they're not, this has got to stop. Like, somebody has to come forward.
Oh my God. What is he like? No one says that. No one talks like that. Like, when you have someone missing, you don't automatically be like, and if they're not coming back, like, no one says that.
That's the tough part.
No one says
Totally
that.
bizarre.
People are normally begging for, if you've seen them, please call, blah, blah, blah. No, he is sketching out at this point.
He is. He's breaking down under the pressure that he is being interviewed and he's on TV, and he clearly didn't think this through. So he's doing his best to bullshit.
Imagine how nerve-wracking that would be, being a murderer and being interviewed by the news and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he planned this out. Like, I think it was so like thrown together that he really didn't have his story right or his plan set out. Like, I think it was
he's winging it here.
Yeah.
Clearly deceptive. Mm-hmm. So this raised all sorts of red flags, and for police especially, they're like, all right, we got to bring this guy in. We got to question him because it seems like he did something with his family. So on August 15th, they bring Chris in for questioning, and they give him a polygraph test, and he's wigging out during the polygraph test because he's like, shit.
Yeah. Yep.
So they started asking.
He failed the fuck out of that.
Yeah, he did. He failed it hard. Mm-hmm. And they asked him questions like, do you know about the disappearance? Like, clear things that he lied about that show guilt, that he had something to do with their disappearance. Mm-hmm. So after the polygraph test, he refuses to talk until he talks to his dad. Yeah,
he's like, I have to talk to my dad first.
Which I think he called his dad. I think his dad flew in from North Carolina to be there.
And I really didn't know about his family. I had just seen their court appearances back when this all happened. So I felt really bad for them. And I know, I'm sure this is really sad, but I thought his dad's behavior in the
reaction to
footage is very strange.
It is.
He has almost no reaction to hearing that his granddaughters are dead and that
Shanann's dead. Yeah. His wife is dead.
Yeah.
So
that's what he says.
So that's it. Yeah. So his dad comes into the interrogation room. They're sitting down, they're talking. And Chris then tells his dad that, he saw Shanann. She killed the kids, essentially.
He throws her under the bus. He's like, I don't want to get her in trouble. I've been protecting her. And then he's like, I don't want to protect her anymore. And then so the dad's like, Shanann hurt the kids. And he's like, yeah. And then he's like, and then I killed her out of rage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the dad's like reaction, he's just like, he just like looks down and
almost like accepts it like right away. Is just like, okay, well.
My parents would be like, my dad would be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Probably like beating the shit out of you. Like,
he would jump. He would be like, he'd be so mad.
Me? Like the police would have to rush in there to separate and be like, don't kill your son or whatever, so.
And like, I understand loving your child through anything, but like, dude, these are your grandchildren too. Right. Like, they're also your flesh and blood. Just
the reaction is bizarre.
It's very strange. I have definitely different kind of opinions on them after seeing that footage.
It's pretty obvious that a lot of what Shanann was saying about them is probably right. Like they're
she didn't have a good relationship with them. I never knew that. It makes a lot of sense.
It does.
I can see that now.
So the actual explanation of events that Chris Watt told police was that after telling Shanann he wanted separation, he saw her on a baby monitor strangling Celeste in another room. And then he told police that Bella was already blue and sprawled out on her bed, apparently dead. And then that's when he said that he went into a rage and ultimately strangled Shanann to death. And then, of course, police are like, okay, Chris, well, if that's the case, then where are the bodies? Like, clearly you did something with the bodies. And then that's when he said he loaded up all three bodies onto the back seat of his, or in the,
This part just makes me so upset. Like, I just truck. Almost can't even.
It's really hard to hear, man.
It makes me so mad that he had the nerve to try to pin, even after murdering her, try to accuse her of killing her own daughters who she loves so much. Like,
it's so sick, man.
I just find that to be the most sick thing. Like, to have no respect for someone that you already killed and then try to tarnish her reputation as a good mother.
Pin it on her in order to save your own ass. It's disgusting. He's a total fucking coward. Just a total coward. Scared little bitch. But anyway, he said he loaded their three bodies into the back of his truck and then took them to the work site where he buried Shanann and then dumped the children's bodies into oil tanks.
It's so sick. And they were talking about, sorry, I'm getting really sniffly. I'm I knew I was going to cry during this one. I just get, these girls were so cute. It's so upsetting.
It is.
Story.
It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. It's like one of the worst things that could possibly happen to a human being, especially sweet and innocent children.
Yeah.
And a woman that did not deserve any of this to happen. But what were you going to say about the tanks?
They were saying in the court footage that
the opening on the top of the tank
is only 8 inches wide,
which is not wide at all. Not enough to fit.
And so they literally had scratches on them from being like shoved in the tanks.
Just fucking
I just
crazy.
can't imagine as a father or a parent
Seriously.
doing that. What the fuck?
Seriously.
How do you do that to these kids? Like, and they're saying to him, like, and they said, you know, he said that during it, they were like, Daddy, and they were confused and stuff. And it makes me so upset.
It's really terrible.
And to think that Shanann, like, if she knew that that was the fate of her babies, she would be so, and I'm sure, like,
she probably does know.
She probably does know.
Yeah.
And even though it happened after, it's just, it's so messed up. That is like, I really can't imagine as a mother thinking that happened to your kids and that they were disposed of in an oil tank.
Well, especially
sick.
the whole aspect that, you know, if this scenario played out the way that he said and Shanann, you know, did that, why as a dad of your family, why wouldn't you bury your family together?
Yeah.
Or try to seek help for them, even if you did, like, what he didn't do any of that. And instead he separated all of them, buried her a ways away from the tanks in a shallow grave. And then he put Celeste and Bella in different tanks, which that right there just shows that he was trying to cover up what had happened.
Such a sicko.
And the fact that he even thought he was going to get away with this is insane.
I know. He really, really thought he could.
But anyway, the police actually figured out where they were because they used a drone actually that afternoon around 4:15 p.m. to investigate the oil and gas site where Chris had said their bodies were.
Yep.
And they found a bed sheet matching the pattern of the pillowcases and top sheet at the Watts family home. And the sheets found at home had allegedly been thrown into a kitchen trash can. Police said they also spotted fresh movement of dirt consistent with the clandestine grave near the oil tanks. And it was at this point at 11:30 p.m. that night, Chris Watts is arrested on suspicion of 3 first-degree murder charges and 3 charges of tampering with a deceased human body.
Oh my gosh.
The following day, on Thursday, August 16th, 2:30 p.m., Chris Watts appears in Weld County Court where he was denied bond. Later that afternoon, Shanann's body was found in the grave, and the body believed to be found was Shanann, of course, and the property was the Anadarko Petroleum Company, which is where Chris had been employed. Yep. And they fired him immediately, obviously, like, the hell. So it was Thursday that the bodies were actually found and recovered. And police think that Chris put, I mean, it's pretty obvious he put those bodies in the tanks to keep the smell. I mean, he literally thought maybe a little bit that he was going to get away with this somehow.
What did he think people were just going to believe they left? Someone took all 3 of them
just
and
missing,
left?
Yeah, they're just like this missing family.
God, forever. Wow.
Yeah. On Friday, August 17th, the Weld County Coroner's Office announced they positively identified the victims, both Shanann and her 2 daughters. Autopsies were conducted for all 3 victims, but the results were not immediately released. Chris Watts' attorney, and this was weird, you remember this? His attorney requested for DNA samples.
Yep, for their necks.
To suggest the daughters were strangled.
By Shanann.
Right. And what we find out later is that, again, this is just a flat out lie. The girls were not strangled.
No, they were smothered.
The cause of death was smothered. There was asphyxiation. Shanann had marks on her necks, bruising from where you fucking strangled her. So his ass was, I don't know if this was a defense attorney that maybe was believing his story or what it was, but they actually went and asked for the ability to do this, to take DNA, and the judge fucking dismissed that shit. He was like, no. Yeah. That's ridiculous. Like, what is wrong with you?
You don't need to do it. Good. I'm glad they did that.
And then later that night on Friday at 8:30 p.m., hundreds gathered to take part in a candlelight vigil for Shanann and her daughters. There was flowers, stuffed animals, crosses, photos everywhere. They made this huge makeshift memorial outside of their house. And the community really came together.
Totally.
I mean, that's one of the great things about living in a small town is that everybody knows of everybody, and people really do come out and support each other. in most cases.
People were devastated for days. They would show footage of their lawn, and there were people there all the time for days. People just crying, laying in the grass, crying,
praying, and it
was just so sad.
Grieving. Yeah.
And I think, like I said, all those videos of her, the fact that she left such a mark to look back on, like all these clips of her, is like, it's very eerie, and it's always weird seeing someone's social media what they've done after they're gone. It's like a strange thing that we have to deal with in this time of life in the 2000s. Because it's weird. Like, do you have friends on Facebook that have passed that are still your friends?
Yeah, I do have a few.
And you get like their birthday notifications and stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to delete this person, but no one's transferred it into like a memorial page yet or anything. Just the amount of stuff that we can have out there now is really weird, and it makes you feel connected to someone like Shanann when you see all those videos of her sharing personal stories. And that's what they teach you in those MLM things, to share a personal story, connect
get people
with people.
To connect.
So that's what she was trying to do, and it is quite possible she was really playing up her life, making it seem like it was, which is something so many people do on social media.
Yeah,
making your life seem like something it's just not,
because it attracts people to it. If your life seems perfect or fantastic, it draws people whose lives maybe not be that perfect to you,
and
because they want to see that.
Well, she's on Thrive, so that must be why her life is perfect.
It's a great, it's a great selling technique. It really is.
That's the idea, right?
But I was going to say, on a positive note, with having deceased profiles and things like that, is the internet provides like a graveyard in a sense for people.
It's a good thing in a way.
A virtual memory, virtual memorial, not graveyard.
Yeah.
Virtual memorial for somebody that will exist as long as it's around. I mean,
a great example of that is Christina Grimmie. She passed. That was June of 2016 that happened. That. Yeah, we were on our honeymoon. I was so freaked out by
that was crazy. Yeah.
And she made YouTube videos for years of herself singing, so you can still hear her voice. She left her mark on the internet, and they're not professional recorded songs. They're just her covering things in her room. And I mean, there's plenty of people like that.
And that's like for the last generation or two is that's going to be the reality going forward, is we're going to be leaving behind a virtual footprint or virtual memorial. What that'll
be like with our grandchildren.
Ooh,
they'd be like, oh my God, look at this cringy shit. I wonder if that's like YouTube in the future. They're like reacting to my grandparents' cringy social media from 2017.
It's gonna be, man. That's the reality. It's going to be like that.
I know.
And things are gonna be so far advanced from like when we're holding our phones taking selfies of like, what you guys doing? You guys look ridiculous.
Yep.
Or just like all the fakery and Facetune pictures and stuff. They're gonna be like, what are you freaks doing? Like, it's gonna be so different. I recently
found out just how fake like everything is on Instagram. I didn't realize like how good people are at Facetune and stuff, and how many things I thought were real that weren't. It's crazy.
Oh, it blows your mind, honestly, how fake Instagram is. Like,
yeah, oh, totally. Or like you'll see someone's Instagram and then you know something about them, like personally, and you're like,
that doesn't match up. Yeah. God,
I know. Social media is a blessing and a curse, just like everything else, right?
It is.
Anything with technology seems to be that way.
It's true. There's pros and cons. But on Monday, August 20th at 4 p.m., Chris Watts was officially charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of first-degree murder for causing the death of a person under the age of 12 while being in a position of trust, and 1 count of unlawful termination of a pregnancy, as well as the 3 counts of tampering with a deceased body. So they charged him with everything, and rightfully so.
They went down on him hard. Well, they almost
they tried death penalty. Is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah. That they were going to do the death penalty, but her family protected him, like begged for his life.
Yep. They felt, they had the feeling that like, nobody should have the right to take the life of another's, even if that person takes somebody's life, which is
interesting.
And I think it's a fairly popular opinion, but in this case, it's like, I get that. And
I have trouble with it.
It's hard. Yeah. I mean, the death penalty is just one of those, it's like really hard because there's again, pros and cons to each side.
Yes.
Because at the same time, it's like, is it worse for him to be in prison for the rest of his life with these memories? But then again, does he deserve our tax-paying money to keep him alive? This sick monster.
But you're right. Like, it might be worse to sit there and think about, Because I feel like that probably is worse than just being put out of your misery, you know?
Yeah.
It's almost like putting a dog down, like they're out. But if you have to sit there every day of your life and think about those beautiful girls and your beautiful wife, and once he's in there for a while, he's going to miss her so much.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
going to
He's gonna
be
regret
like,
all this so hard. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's just going to be surrounded by dudes all the time. And he's going to think about
Which honestly,
that he did this to
honestly,
her.
I wouldn't be surprised if he takes his own life one day, like, or, you know,
Yeah,
in
well,
prison.
they watch him pretty close.
Yeah.
People like this, I don't know. He seems like such a sociopath that he
Yeah,
wouldn't even
that
do
he-
that. Like he
he's
loves
just so
himself. He's a
detached.
narcissist.
He thinks he's like God's gift to earth. Like, yeah, it's really crazy. So in the ensuing days, he appears in court to be formally advised of his charges against him. And a friend of Chris shared a few days later how shocked he was to find out that the soon-to-be father of 3 was arrested for murder. And the quote is from Chris Landon. He said, "I believed until the other day that his entire life was those girls and that he would die for them. I never saw this coming."
That's crazy.
So he literally led that he was this great dad, great husband, and
Faking it.
was he fake? It just doesn't make any sense. Like, was he faking it this entire time, and he really wanted this like
Or he just snapped. I don't know.
free life where he could just do whatever Chris wanted to do? Like, it just, I don't know. It's really crazy. On Saturday, August 25th, an obituary is posted for Shanann and her daughters and reveals that the expectant mother was going to have a boy, and she planned to name him Nico Lee. And then on Wednesday, August 29th, a man called into Ashley Banefield's Crime and Justice on HLN claiming he had a 10-month relationship with Watts. This was bizarre.
This was weird. This interview was interesting with the police, when they were basically talking to him like...
Well, I think that was a different guy.
Oh, was it? So there was more than one guy claiming to have had a romantic relationship.
2 guys.
Yeah, that was some interesting...
The guy that we had seen in the surveillance footage was a guy that said he
blew him.
Just kind of like had an encounter with him.
Yeah. And they were like, "Why are you here? Because you're not telling us anything else." And he
anything.
was like just telling things that were on the internet, and they were like, "What?"
So it's interesting though that if we don't have any way to know if this is real or this actually happened or
and
not.
There's so much rumors around this case.
And again, like we've talked about before, like people insert themselves into cases in order to just, either make themselves known. I mean, I don't know why you'd want to do that in this case.
Yeah.
And like admit that you had intercourse with a murderer, like why you'd want to do that unless you're sick too. But yeah, it's really bizarre. The man was later identified as Trent Bolt. It's very weird.
It is weird.
He said he claimed their relationship lasted 10 months and ended in April. So if that's the case, then Chris was like bisexual and like just like having sex with whoever pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Which again kind of falls into that theory of like maybe he was a sex addict or something, and he just was like, that's what it was for him, is like he just constantly had to have maybe something new. I don't know. It's really weird.
A bit exciting.
Why people would do that. But then on Saturday, September 1st, hundreds of mourners gathered to pay their respects to Shanann and her 2 girls at a memorial at the Sacred Heart Catholic Church in Pinehurst. No one mentioned Watts during the 90-minute ceremony, which they live streamed on Facebook. And then on Tuesday, September 4th, Chris was denied bail and forced to remain behind bars until his trial opened. He was placed on suicide watch while in jail, where he spent 23 hours a day in his cell because he was in protective custody. Yep. Also because the case was so big, like everybody had heard about it. And people like this that annihilate their family do not have a good time in prison at all. He'll probably have to be in solitary confinement, I would imagine, like separated from everybody. Mm-hmm. If not forever, like, it's just like,
he deserves it. I hope
one
he
of
has to
those
sit alone
like
and think about
unforgivable sins. Like, you don't fucking do that. You don't kill somebody, period.
Kill your
but
babies.
Kill your family and your kids.
So
like,
bizarre.
what is wrong with you? And obviously, while you're in protective custody, you have no access to any of the normal things that other prisoners do. He had 1 hour per day. He was allowed to leave his cell and make phone calls to his family or his counsel. And then on Friday, September 7th, Shanann's brother Frank took to social media to thank his family supporters for all that they had done for his sisters and niece's deaths. He was quoted as saying, "I wanted to take a minute and thank everyone who has helped us in every way possible." And his brother's name is Frank. And he wrote on Facebook that from best friends and family to people all over the world, it's truly an honor and a blessing to be part of this family. And in the writing, he also alluded, saying that never in my wildest dreams would I have ever dreamt such a horrific nightmare and just plain heartbreaking tragedy would ever happen to my regular old happy family. We lost so much in a blink of an eye, but we also gained love and support from people all over, and they became part of our family. I mean, people are just so shocked by it that I think we all, like all of us normal humans across the world, were like, how could you do this? And like, after you see how perfect his family and seemingly his life was, it's like, what happened?
Dude? Yeah.
Like, it just didn't make
I'm sure
any
he
sense.
regrets it so much. Disgusting.
So in November, on November 6th, Chris Watts pleaded guilty to the charges he was facing in order to avoid the death penalty. Plus, obviously, the family's working the DA to try to get that off the table. And then it came down to November 14th. Chris Watts' parents actually spoke out, claiming their pregnant daughter-in-law would have been more than capable of murdering the little girls, all of whom their son had pleaded guilty to killing. This was actually something that they said.
That?
Yeah.
Well,
so they believed like the story, like they believed Chris, I believe, from the beginning, like after, as soon as he got arrested. And they actually did say this.
Wow.
They said the relationship between Shanann and Chris was very hard. Ronnie, Chris's parents, Ronnie and Sydney, said in an interview, and they said, you have to get to know her to be around her. Put it that way, his dad said. The couple claimed their son was in an abusive relationship with her, which is like clearly delusional.
Oh my God.
So,
I feel bad for ever saying that I feel bad for them. Their family.
Yeah, they
I figured as the grandparents, they were like, oh my God.
No, they took Chris's side.
Jeez. Well, it makes sense because in their court interviews, they were like, we will always love you. They said it so many times, we will still love you.
Yeah,
blah,
yeah,
blah, blah.
totally. And they claim that Shanann isolated Chris from his family. And it was a very hard relationship with her as far as I'm concerned. Chris's mom said, I couldn't do anything right. And when asked if their son was capable of killing the children, Cindy instead pointed to Shanann. She literally said, I would say she's more capable than Christopher. Christopher, I don't see him capable at all. And if something happened that night, and that did happen, God forbid if it did happen, what was the trigger? Why? What happened? I just want the truth because he's not the sociopath next door. He's not the kind of person that would do something like that.
Dude, sorry. Wow.
Just completely denying it all and being like, I mean, I think a lot of parents do that when their kids do some heinous crimes like this, is they're like, how could my little baby that I raised ever do something like this? And his whole life, he never showed signs of this. But again, he's totally a sociopath. And if you're a sociopath, you're good at, fooling people. You're good at, sort of faking it to make it. And in a statement to a TV station, actually, the parents of Shanann said the comments made about their daughter were vicious, grotesque, and utterly false. Quote unquote, their false statements, however hurtful and inaccurate, will never alter the truth about Shanann and will never alter the truth about the crimes committed by their son, Chris Watts. Shanann's memory and reputation deserves to be protected, and her family is fully prepared to do so. And then it was on Thursday, November 15th, when Chris Watts' mistress, Nicole, said she had no idea who he was and what he was capable of until it was too late. She actually came forward after a lot of speculation about her identity and after the arrest affidavit revealed that Chris was having an affair with an unnamed woman around the time that his wife, who at the time was 15 weeks pregnant, and 2 daughters went missing. Nicole said, he's a liar. He lied about everything. She explained that her and Watts, whom she described as soft-spoken and a good listener, had met at work, and they started talking in June and began a physical relationship a few weeks later, when Nicole noticed he hadn't been wearing a ring and found him attractive. So he was totally playing the divorce card.
Bullshit.
And Nicole went on to claim that they saw each other up to 5 times a week, and that Watts said in July his divorce was finalized, which is not true at all.
Oh my God.
And then on August 13th, Chris allegedly texted her saying his family was quote unquote gone. Shanann had taken their daughters on a play date and they hadn't returned. She said he told her. So there you go. He was like, she took them and just disappeared. And this was when Nicole said that she noticed that something was off about Chris's story. And then she saw him on the news and that his wife and the girls were missing. And she thought, if he was able to lie to me and hide something that big, what else was he lying about?
A lot.
Yeah, everything pretty much. She said she confronted him about his family's disappearance and he showed little emotion during the exchange, which is fucking terrible. And as soon as the bodies were found, that's when she was like, hey, I'm the mistress. I'm the woman. Like,
yeah. Good for her for coming forward though.
Yeah, seriously.
It's gotta be hard.
And I mean, she like denounced him, was like, fuck this guy. Like,
yeah.
If I had any inkling that this was what was going on, I would have never associated myself with him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like, can you blame her for what she did? I mean, she kind of knew, but at the same time, it's like she did think he was divorced or getting divorced. Like, so I don't know. But on Monday, November 19th, Chris Watts was sentenced to 5 life sentences without possibility of parole. His sentence included punishment for other crimes, including unlawful termination of an unborn child. Rightfully so. 5 life sentences. So basically, he's going to die in prison. No questions. There's no way he's getting out. Thank God. The judge actually quoted saying, I could objectively say this is perhaps the most inhumane and vicious crime that I have handled out of the thousands of cases I have seen.
I couldn't believe that, but it makes sense. I mean, it's just so brutal.
It is. It's complete
savagery.
Yeah. I mean, it's like an animal. It's like an animal might do that in the wild to their kids and like do something like that.
Yeah.
Annihilate their family. And there's actually a term called familicide or something like that. There's actually a term for this exact thing where a male usually kills his entire family, but oftentimes takes his own life too. And that's what's interesting about this, is that he didn't do that.
Yeah.
And in fact, he actually says that he got a gas can and was going to just blow himself up, I guess. But then he didn't, because he didn't want to make things worse for other people or hurt other people. But is
that why he had the gas can with him?
That's
so
why
he was going to do it.
He was planning to that morning when he was loading him up. He was planning to do that.
Wow, to himself, to just
boom, blow it up. I guess at the oil tanks and stuff. Take everybody with him. Yeah.
Wow, that's intense.
Yeah.
God, I'm glad he didn't do that, and they caught him and were able to prosecute him.
Somewhat recently, in February 2019, he gives an interview while he's in prison to investigators, including a detective from the Frederick Police Department, the CBI, as well as an FBI at the prison, where he just tells it exactly how it is and exactly what happened. And I'm going to read through exactly what happened according to him, the truth, quote unquote. And beware, this is a bit disturbing, but I think it's important that we know exactly what happened. So he said the couple had been having issues, and while Shanann was on an extended vacation with her daughters in North Carolina that summer, Watts had started an affair with a woman at work, which is Nicole. When his wife came home that morning, she got in bed and about half an hour later initiated sex, Chris said. He told investigators he felt like it was a test, quote unquote, and that the sex felt strange. He theorized that it may have been a trigger point, or like you hit the push button on a bomb and it just blows up. That's weird.
That is really weird.
That like, I don't know how that works exactly, but according to Chris, the version of events that happened was the two apparently fell asleep after sex and he woke up a few hours later to get ready for work. He said he woke up his wife to talk before he left, straddling her as she lay in the bed. He said the two had a 15 to 20 minute conversation during which Shanann cried and said she knew there was someone else.
Wow.
While Chris denied the affair, he said he admitted he didn't love Shanann anymore and said that they weren't compatible. So just dropping a complete bomb on Shanann.
Mm-hmm. She probably freaked out.
And she probably freaked out. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
And that's when Shanann, out of probably anger, said, "You're never going to see the kids again."
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, is a pretty justified response to getting that bomb dropped on you. People say that all the time. Yeah. He said she also told him to get off of her because he was hurting the baby. And that's when he said he, quote unquote, snapped. And he put his hands around his wife's throat and began to strangle her. And he said there's a part of him that feels like the idea of killing his wife was, quote unquote, implanted in his mind and he had no control over it.
What?
That's weird. So if there's any truth to that I don't know what that insinuates, but
there's no truth to that.
No, it seems like a rational explanation, at least to him, as to why he did this. It's just an excuse. During the trial, when a prosecutor said that it takes 2 to 4 minutes to strangle someone, Chris said he wondered, why couldn't I just let go? So he feels like something kind of like took over him and just like kept doing it. And I think it's just like, I think adrenaline is huge when you're in these types of situations, and adrenaline just like fuels you. And if you're enraged too, those two together can just, I think,
God, but to get to that point, I think certain people are like Chris Watts and could get to this point, but most people I feel like have a sense to stop.
Yeah, and not think to like
bad.
put
Or
your
to
hands
harm
around somebody
someone.
and choke them. And Chris told investigators that Shanann never fought back or screamed, and it was all over. He said he was shaking. And when Bella came into the room and asked what was wrong with Mommy, he said Mommy didn't feel good, he remembered saying. He said that he then wrapped Shanann's body face down in a bed sheet, which is why the bed was stripped in the police footage, and dragged her down the stairs to put in his truck, just like trash. Took her out like trash.
So terrible, dude.
His daughter Bella watched the whole scene and cried, asking again, "Is Mommy okay?" Can you imagine like the kids just horrible?
Such a terrible, terrible story.
And when Chris came back inside, Celeste was waking up in her bedroom. So he took both girls and put them in the back of the truck on the bench seat, which is like a little seat behind the front seats.
Yeah.
And each of them brought a blanket, and Celeste brought a stuffed animal. And he says that at this point, he said it felt like someone else had control over him. And that's when he put the gas can in the back of the truck, because he felt like he could kill himself at the oil site where he worked and planned to dispose of Shanann's body.
Wow.
Ultimately, he told investigators he decided not to go through with that plan because he feared he could hurt more people if something caught fire at the site and exploded. Which I don't think it was. I don't think it was close to anything other big.
You don't care about your own family. Why would you care?
Why would you
about,
care about anybody
people?
else? That's what's weird. That doesn't. That's I'm not buying that bullshit.
Little bitch. To
He's
have
a coward.
Done it.
He's a complete coward. So he said once he drove out to the site, he told investigators that his daughter had dozed off and laid in each other's laps. At one point, he said Bella remarked, "Daddy, it smells."
Oh my God.
And when they got to the site, Chris said he pulled Shanann's body out of the truck and laid it down on the ground near where he would eventually bury it in a shallow grave. He said both girls asked him, What are you doing to Mommy? God. And then he said he returned to the truck and Cece was first. He said he strangled her with a blue Yankees blanket as Bella watched, sitting next to her, not saying anything. When investigators asked what he was thinking as he did this, Watts said, "I wasn't. If I was thinking, this wouldn't have ever happened."
Oh my God.
After he killed his first daughter, he said he then carried her body over to the oil tank and dropped her in.
What the hell?
And then he walked back to the truck, and Bella asked him what happened to Cece. And then in a softer voice, "Is the same thing going to happen to me, Cece?" And these girls are old enough that they know what's going on. Like, oh, God. Just like thinking about these poor girls, like, just all of them. It's just like so heartbreaking.
I know. It's seriously such a terrible story.
He said her last words were "Daddy, no," which is just like, oh, God.
Why?
Crazy.
God, I can't.
Why?
I can't even.
He said he hears Bella saying those two words every time he closes his eyes.
Good.
And fucking right. I hope he's haunted by all of them.
So horrible.
So why did he kill his family? Why did he do this? What caused him to come to this point? Like, what the hell? Why annihilate your family?
Complete psycho.
Chris said that he thinks he may have taken his pent-up anger with Shanann out on everyone that morning. He said he had not ever been that angry before and believes it may have stemmed from the feeling that Shanann drove a wedge between him and his family, which all just sound like convenient excuses.
Yeah.
None of the things that were happening in his life were anywhere near a point where they would cause you to resort to violence.
Yeah.
This was him completely just being selfish and angry and thinking about only himself and the life that he wanted in his head. He probably created this fucking grand fantasy in his head.
What I was gonna like with her.
Get away from his family and the responsibility with that, and go live in fairyland with Nicole and start over.
I seriously can't believe he did that.
He said his mother never approved of Shanann and that the family felt like she had taken him away from them when the couple moved to Colorado.
They sound controlling.
Seriously,
annoying.
yeah. He was like, it was just a fuse, and that fuse hit its end.
Well,
and it just blew up.
People like him come from strange families sometimes. Bad people. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's.
I think it's all him, man. I think
I don't know. They just like rub me the wrong way as his parents.
But in this interview from prison, he says he looks outside every day and wonders what he would be doing if he hadn't killed his family. So
I bet you do, dude.
Yeah,
oh
I'm sure
God.
he does. And I'm sure he's just wallowing in his, I mean, hopefully he's fucking grieving and realizing that he fucked up to the point where
he ruined
there's
his
no
life.
going
he
back.
Ruined
he
all
ruined
of their lives.
He ruined, there's literally no purpose for him to live at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like, and I think he realizes that, and I don't know, but listening to the interview, it didn't even seem like there was that much like remorse there in his voice.
No.
And I would play it for you, but it's really loud and just kind of, it's better heard like on its own. So I'll link it for you guys if you want to hear it.
There's definitely a lot of good clips if you're curious about this case.
I'll link
online.
that documentary watch, which just had all the footage in it.
Yeah, documentary.
Even though it's a fucking joke.
It's just stuff put together. But
so the one other motive that kind of plays into the whole like their picture perfect life wasn't really perfect that we didn't touch on yet was the fact that they were in major financial
right. We
struggle.
didn't touch on this yet.
And that obviously when a married couple is under financial stress or there's turmoil about finances, then it can create a lot of problems. I mean, it can. I mean, I've seen it in my own family and so have you.
Yeah. Especially when you're taking your side bitch out on dates.
Yeah, seriously.
When the bank account's low.
Yeah. And they were filing for bankruptcy.
Yeah, it was bad. They were like down to nothing pretty much.
They were $70,000 in debt, racked up by student loans and credit card purchases. And their house was like really nice. It was a really big house and expensive for up north and in that area. So they were going to have to sell the house. It was kind of everything was falling apart for them. Yeah. And I mean, I get like all those things can add up, but it's just like it should never add up to violence and let alone fucking annihilating your family. So, I mean, to me, it seems like his reasoning for murdering his family is he wanted to have this carefree life with his, this mistress of his. And that maybe that fantasy just kind of overtook him along with all the other things built up, kind of just like led him to a point where you explode. And again, I just don't see how you do that and why, like, kids, your children, like there's plenty of examples of men where they, the killer wives or whatever, but I feel like it's more rare that you see them just annihilate the whole family. And not that I'm saying that anybody should be murdered, let alone, family member or wife or anything like that, but just from other cases that are out there of this happening. It's like, I think that's why this was just so shocking and just heartbreaking and
he just really doesn't look like a murderer when you first see him.
No, and that's the thing, and all the pictures and all the videos,
they look like just such a nice
normal happy family and ends in complete disaster. But I mean, my final thoughts are just I want to pay my respects to Shanann and the kids, and just I felt like it's important to tell her story as tragic as it is, and so that they're always remembered. And I mean, they're always going to be because of Facebook and all the videos and just, her family and memories and everything. But obviously this was pretty close to home for us as far as, location and everything. So that was important that we cover it. And, you can draw your own conclusions about it. But I think we can all agree that Chris is just a piece of shit. And honestly, I personally don't think he deserves to even be breathing and living still, like after all this. I
lean towards that way too.
I don't think there's any point in keeping him alive. I mean,
sicko. Such a horrible story. Just horrific.
What good can he do now? Like there's nothing. It's just a waste of life. If you think if there is such a thing, but I don't know. Let us know what your guys' thoughts are on this and what you know about it. And I don't know. It's a different case that we covered today. So let us know if you want to see more things like this or more stories like this. It's extremely hard and emotional.
Yeah.
And this was honestly kind of hard to get through to talk about this for so long, but hopefully you found this episode of the podcast interesting. If you did, make sure you subscribe. But yeah, thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Mile Higher Podcast. Stay safe out there.
And stay well.
We'll see you guys next time.